So there are two things that every Indian has an opinion on: cricket and Bollywood. Or so I thought. While I was doing this talk, it would come up in conversations a lot, and people would ask me, "Oh, you're doing a TEDx. What are you speaking about?" And I'd say, "Education." And before I could finish, they would launch into this 4 or 5 minute monologue. "Oh, education, you know, I was educated in India and it's terrible. Oh, the education system is broken, there's rote learning, it's so standardized," and I could never even finish what I was talking about. But it's understood. If you ask anyone around you who studied in India, I asked my friends, my family, the education system is broken. You could ask leading researchers, you could ask Quora. It's the butt of jokes, and it's the subject of disappointing statistics. Everybody knows that in India the education system is broken. And so I thought, if the education system is such a subject of interest, people must be very interested about what they might be studying or what universities they might be choosing. But what I found was quite different. When I moved to Google and I typed in, "How can I choose?" the autocomplete results in India showed my lucky number and my seat on an Emirates flight above my college, university, or major. And it was different in other countries. Have a look at South Africa, it's third. Have a look at Brazil, it's third as well. Just above how can I choose my Uber driver, another very important decision. And so I thought, well, this must be a paradox. Clearly, people are thinking about education a lot, but not about their choice. But then I came to realize that there are many discussions that happen at coffee tables across India. They happen at college canteens. And they happen on angsty teenage blogs, where I also think the seed for this talk might have been sown a decade ago or so. But the idea that I am deeply concerned about is that students in India aren't equipped, encouraged, or enabled to make their education choices. And I'm going to focus on higher education. So let me ask all of you, how many of you studied in India? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you felt pressurized when you were making a course choice or a university choice? Raise your hands. All right. And how many of you might have picked a safer choice option rather than something you really wanted to do? It's true. Students in India are not often able masters of their destiny, or they aren't understood to be, rather. It's your parents, it's your society that sort of have ownership over this decision. And you think about the implications of something like that, but you'd understand that if you're a parent, or if you're a family member, you want the best for your son or daughter. You want them to be prosperous, you want them to be successful in life. And that outcome is clearly a good one. But it would be fine if we were making these decisions based on good belief sets or perspectives. And I don't think we are. The perspectives, the belief sets are outdated. They are narrow, and they are sometimes plain wrong. Everyone knows that, sure, a good education can buy you something on the marriage market, but can it actually buy you a happy life? I'm not really sure. Is this a bad thing? Well, yes. If you think about how education is advertised and the perspectives, this poster for a tuition class to me summarizes how people think about education. It reads, "Give us your child and we will make an IITian, a doctor, a scientist, a leader of tomorrow." Those are 3 ways in which you can be a leader of tomorrow, and 3 ways only. That's a narrow view of success. What does it tell everybody else? Clearly, we understand there's a perceived hierarchy of degrees in India. The smartest kids, well, they are doctors or engineers. The somewhat less smart, they might do science. The ones less smart than that, commerce, and everybody else left behind does arts, exactly. And you start, look at that tuition, starts from grade 1, which is age 6, and goes all the way up to your teens. And so clearly we're moving to a society where people think that their children can go astray and can be this guy. But what are the other perspectives that people are thinking about? One is career choice. You make these choices with a planned career in mind. Well, I had an aunt who came up to me after I graduated and says, "Raahil, I can get you a job in MNC. I said, "Oh, MNC, I've never heard of MNC. What do they do? Like, what sort of role would I have? Would it be client-facing? Would I be on the computer? Would it be, which sector would I work on?" said, no, 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 you don't understand, MNC. And I wasn't quite getting it, and when I Googled it when I got home, she just meant I would get a cushy private sector job in a multinational corporation. It didn't matter what role, it didn't matter what sector. It's this idea that we have these defined sets. You have to do a cushy private sector job or a government job, but we don't even understand what those fully mean or entail, and that could be an aptitude or a passion mismatch for a student. And finally, there's this understanding that you have to work, you have to study, 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 and then work, 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 work. There's no concept of work experience while you study to experiment and test out the things you might like. And so this is a bad thing. I think everyone can understand at an individual level. So your passions and your aptitudes don't quite match your course choice or your university choice. But I'm thinking more at the society level. Last year, over 30 million students in India enrolled in a higher education course. If 30 million students are going through this decision set, and I am really worried about India's demographic dividend, we could throw it away. In the next 10 years, over 300 million students in India are going to have to be making these choices. We have a population of 1.3 billion, over half of which is under 25. And so let's think about the 4 ways in which this could throw away a demographic dividend. 1, morale. We see that 40% of India is enrolling in arts degrees, over half in arts and commerce. We're telling our students that they aren't good enough, that they aren't as smart as the others. Another way we might be doing this is by a grand aptitude mismatch. If over 300 million students in the next decade aren't really finding or looking for what they love or what they're good at, then they're going to end up like these guys and probably not in the careers they want. A recent study found that 80% of engineers in India are unemployable. Another found that 2 out of every 3 engineers never wanted to do engineering. They were forced into it. Those are staggering numbers. Another issue is resource wastage. In India and in the developing country, there are centralized models where you fund institutions. You fund engineering schools, medicine schools, and even other kinds of schools. But if you're not matching students to the schools they should be matched to, they're going to do different things, and that funding wouldn't come to anything. And finally, everybody sees India as a growing country and moving towards a developed society. A paradigm of a developed society involves a diverse society, one that is culturally diverse and diverse in terms of its professions. Of course, we need doctors, we need engineers, but we also need musicians, we need dancers, we need historians. Who's going to be the next Sanjeev Kapoor? Who's going to be the next Raghuram Rajan? We need to encourage these people to make these career choices. And another link that I think we often miss is that the choices we make might affect the options we have. The fact that we are making choices in this broken way, think about it. Education becomes just a good-looking stamp on your CV. And if everybody is looking for good-looking stamps on their CV, institutions are going to compete to give you nicer-looking stamps. And when our educational institutions are just giving out nicer stamps, you start realizing that these narrow perspectives that we spoke about are reflecting in the sort of options that the education system might give us. In India, there are missing degrees. Can any of you tell me, where would I go in India to study oceanography? Where would I go in India if I wanted to study theology? Where would I go if I wanted to do criminology? I don't really know. There are boxed degrees. I can do an arts or a humanities course. I can do a science course, a commerce course. I wouldn't know how to mix between. I wouldn't know where I would do economics, biology, and psychology, so I could study consumer behavior. And so it leads me to think, well, maybe it's a developing country, there are teething problems, and this issue will resolve in some time. But it's unlikely to. We're bombarded by these ideas in the media when you see these headlines of how these few engineering or medical students or a few students of business students have got these huge pay packages. Organizations like insurance companies will have pictures of young girls in lab coats and how you could secure their future as a doctor if you invested in them today. But there's a cycle as well. Think about companies that come to hire from universities. A bank comes with the idea to hire somebody who's passionate about banking and to hire somebody who's good at finance. But they can't find the answers to those questions. The only question they find the answer to is who has the nicest looking stamp? And so if organizations look for the nicest looking stamps, students funnel in to get the nicest looking stamps, we have a cycle. And that cycle doesn't break. And so where do we go from here? Well, I think the first thing we need to do is start empowering our students. We need to equip them, enable them, and encourage them. And as a student, what can you do? You can start looking at the things that other students do across the world when they make these choices ably. They get work experience. They look up online education courses and study them so they can get a better understanding of what it is they like and what it is they're good at. They go to career counselors as well. We need brave new institutions, and we need our old institutions to be braver. We need organizations who will recognize these brave institutions and governments that will allow them to be innovative and be brave. Can we then envision a society in the next 10 years where these 300 million students are understood to be able masters of their destiny and are able masters of their destiny? I believe we can. But all we have to do first is empower one generation. Thank you.